What's going on, everybody? This is Maximilian, and today we are going to plow our way north of Cherry Grove City and into Violet City, where we will meet the first gym leader by the name of Falkner. But first, we're going to buy some supplies at the Pokemon Mart. Grab a couple Pokeballs, a few potions, and I'd say one or two antidotes just in case, because you will be fighting some bug trainers and some wild Weedles along the way. Paralyze Heal isn't really necessary because there's nothing between here and Violet City that's going to paralyze you, although it doesn't hurt to have one just in case, because for all we know there may be something later in the future, and it doesn't hurt to have at least one in your pack. So, grab some items, head up north, and take the left side of the fork instead of the right one where you went to go to Mr. Pokemon's house. Now I'm going to be fighting all of the wild Pokemon I encounter for the first part of these next few episodes, just because it makes it much easier to level grind while we're here. And if you can get ahead of the game at this point in the game when level grinding is much easier than it is later, it makes fighting gym leaders and other trainers much easier. Especially Falkner. I mean, it's not like he's difficult to begin with, but if you can get your Pokemon either on his top level or above it, then it's just absolute cake. So that's just my thinking behind it. Now, we're going to be fighting a couple of trainers up here, and you're going to have to make your way through a bit of tall grass, so this should take a little bit to get through, but in all honesty, it's actually much shorter than going through the Viridian Forest and level grinding a Butterfree to fight Brock. I mean, I did technically bring that upon myself since I essentially handicapped myself with a starter Pokemon that couldn't fight rock types, but I don't know, it just appears shorter to me. It feels that way anyway, I don't know. But it's just a little word of advice. Chikorita is not going to be useful at all for probably the entirety of this next episode. Maybe a little bit afterwards, but that's because there's several poison type Pokemon that you're going to run into along the way, be it trainers or wild Pokemon. And you're also going to be fighting a gym leader who specializes in flying type Pokemon, which is definitely not good for any grass type Pokemon since they do actually know moves this early that can typecast. So Chikorita is basically a sitting duck. So what I would recommend that you do is whenever you do find a trainer here that doesn't have something that's insanely good against Chikorita, just use Chikorita as much as you can. I think I just raised her up to level 9 because I don't really care that much for Chikorita anyway. But she does learn Razor Leaf fairly early, so it wouldn't hurt to do it. Just saying, you may want to give her a bit more attention than she deserves right now because she's going to be taking a back seat for quite a while. I don't know what I'm saying she, because that's definitely a he Chikorita, according to my Game Boy. Whatevs. Anywho, talk to a trainer after you're done with them, because sometimes they will give you a phone number. Now you're probably asking, well, what's the whole point of that? It's a new dynamic that was introduced in this game. One of the many new dynamics introduced in this game, for that matter. And basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to get more information about certain Pokemon that are hard to obtain when they start appearing in mass quantities, and B, it also gives you the opportunity to re-battle trainers, which was something that you could not previously do in Red and Blue. I mean, sure, you could battle the Elite Four as much as you wanted, that's no big deal, but this also makes it much easier to level grind since you have a ton of trainers at your disposal as opposed to only 4. And they also, their Pokemon get stronger as you go through the game. It's not like they have the same ones over and over again. Because, I mean, after a while, the Elite Four just gets tedious. There's no point. So, just something to consider. It's always good to have those extra phone numbers. And I'm pretty sure that you can put as many phone numbers in your phone book as there are in the game. I mean, they upgraded the space on this game, so I'm not sure why they would have run out of room for that. That's just my thinking. I really don't know how you could possibly get more phone numbers than your phone book would have room for, because there really aren't that many trainers that have phone numbers in this game, although it doesn't hurt to check with every single one. And the bit about information about wild Pokemon is actually quite useful, because some Pokemon in this game, assuming that you're going for like a catch-em-all or something, or even just some useful Pokemon that are hard to obtain, they only come out at certain times in certain areas. And when they do, it's usually very sporadic and hard to come by. But some trainers are actually knowledgeable, so to speak, about these Pokemon and when they come out. So they'll tell you, hey, there's a bunch of whatevers popping up around Route X or whatever. So they'll let you know or key you in to when Pokemon are starting to pop up there, which is a very nice feature because catching all the Pokemon in this game is much more difficult than it is in Red and Blue. So that's just something to keep in mind. I would always talk to a trainer for a phone number afterwards. And I mean, come on, it doesn't hurt anyway, does it? The kids occasionally call you and are a little annoying, like they'll be like, "Hey, what's up? My Rattatat's awesome, bye." But you'll get used to it after a while. It's really no big deal. I mean, it's not like they're calling you in real life. That would be weird. Moving on. Plow your way through the rest of these trainers. There's only like a total of 4, I think, on the entire way over there. You could go into Dark Cave, but seeing as how you don't have Flash at the moment, there's really no point. If you want a Pokemon, you can get one. But considering you have all 3 starter Pokemon in your party right now, I really don't think there's any need to catch more. Especially since there's a lot better ones later in the game to diversify your party. Voice crack. Diversify your party later in the game anyway. So, that's just my take on it. Now, when we get to Falkner, he specializes in flying type Pokemon, and I believe, if I remember correctly, he has a level 7 Pidgey and a level 9 Pidgeotto. Now, just as a little side note, Pidgeys work slightly different in this game. Normally they start off with Gust as their default move in Red and Blue, however in this game they start off with Tackle. Gust is a move that they have to learn, and that's because it typecasts as flying in this game, so that's something to be aware of. Gust is not a normal type move, it's flying. So if you do happen to like run your Chikorita or something into a bird and they use Gust on it, it's gonna send you for a wild ride. No pun intended. So, definitely something that you should consider. Although, I'm pretty sure that most of the bird Pokemon, in any case the Pidgeys that you'll run into at this point in the game, don't know Gust. I'm pretty sure they learned it around level 8 or 9. I could be wrong, but that's just what I know off the top of my head. It's been a long time since I played this game. I'm trying to slowly gather this information as we progress through the game so that way I can keep you guys up to date and that way I don't miss anything. So, other than that, Falkner's really not too difficult. I will let you know, though, that I used Totodile for the entirety of the battle. I didn't use Cyndaquil at all. That's actually because Totodile is, for all intents and purposes right now, the strongest Pokemon in your party. He has the highest attack stat, and he has, in theory, the strongest moves right now for the gym leader you're going to fight, because, I mean, Razor Leaf is technically the best move that'll be among your party by the time you get there, but it's going to do absolutely nothing to bird Pokemon, so there's really no reason to even consider it. But there's also a slight difference in why Totodile's better, and that's because he knows Rage. Rage works slightly differently in this game than it does in the previous Red and Blue games. Rage is actually a move that you don't have to chain continuously, whereas Red and Blue kind of forced you to commit to it. Like, you'd have to continue using it over and over again until your Pokemon died or the battle ended. Whereas in this game, you can switch off to another move if you want to. However, it's much better at this part in the game because we're so early, so the increase in attack stat actually does make a huge difference. So if you're fighting against a Pokemon or a Pokemon trainer that you think might be kind of strong or put up a challenge against your party, then go ahead and spam Rage. Because every time they hit you, your attack is going to go up, and Totodile's attack stat is high enough anyway that it just makes him almost superhuman to a degree. So, if you thought Rage was a bad move in Red and Blue, which it kind of was, it's definitely not the case in this game. At least at this point in the game, Rage is easily one of the best moves that you can use to fight a trainer. So, on a little side note, right now I am resetting my sleep schedule. And for those of you who've never tried that before, it's a bit of a daunting experience. Being in college is a little bit different than being in high school because you have the freedom to set your schedule. You don't have to conform to the 8 to 3 norm that's usually set for you. So you can vary classes depending on which day they are as much as you want, as long as they fit into a reasonable schedule. Well, the way my schedule is working out right now, I have class at 4:30, starting at 4:30 on Mondays, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays it starts at 10, whereas on Wednesdays I have no classes at all. So I have a lot of different times at which I can wake up during the day. Well, let's say if I take advantage of this on the weekends and I stay up late on Sunday and I sleep in late on Monday, I know I can because I can afford to. I don't have class until late. But if I keep myself on that pace, then I'm going to have to deprive myself of sleep during Tuesday because I have to get up much earlier for class than I do on Mondays. And eventually what this creates is a vicious cycle where your sleep schedule actually shifts itself forward by like an hour or two every week. So essentially, you are waking up 2 hours later every day, and you're going to bed 2 hours later every day. And it actually got to the point, at least one time, to where I was waking up at, I think, 4 p.m. every day and going to bed at 6 a.m. every day, which is not good by any stretch. I definitely don't recommend you guys to ever obtain a sleep schedule because it's just not good for you. So I had to do a bit of a sleep schedule reset because my schedule's been slightly sliding forward and I need to kind of push it back before it resets again. I've had to do this a couple times I've been here. It totally sucks, but I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. So what I had to do is I had to pull essentially a long day, like a 24, 30-hour day. And I go to bed around like 6 o'clock at night, like 6 p.m. It's relatively early if you're considering normal standards, but this is what you have to do when you reset your sleep schedule. Your body will sleep for a good 8 or 9 hours. You'll feel really rested, but you'll wake up at like 3 a.m. And that's officially when you're starting your day. When you're first putting food in your body or breakfast, that's when you essentially start your day. So I was starting my day at like 3 a.m. And if I pulled slightly longer days, not really like long days, because 14 hours isn't really a long day. It's probably average for some people. But I'd pull a 14-hour day where I would wake up at 3 a.m., go to bed at 5 or 6 p.m., and then I would force myself to sleep longer because you really don't need that much sleep when you're older. However, if you force yourself to sleep longer, you can start your day later. So what I do is after I did an official reset, I would sleep much longer for the nights that I had, and I'd wake up slightly later every day. So I'd push my schedule forward a couple of hours. My goal is to try to get to where I can wake up at 8 a.m. every day and go to bed at 10 p.m. every day. At least that's a good place to keep your sleep schedule on track because then it will take a while for it to get back off track, so to speak. But yeah, that's what I'm having to go through right now. So right now I think I'm at waking up at 5 or 6 a.m. and going to bed at 5 or 6 p.m. So we're fairly close. But yeah, we're getting there. And if you're wondering why I may be going off on random tangents right now, that's because it's actually like 6:30 in the morning my time. So yeah, it's early. Not that it's actually technically early by my sleep schedule, but it's early in the morning. I mean, realistically, nobody should ever be up this early. At least I hold to that opinion. So here we go, Gym Leader Battle. You're going to be fighting Falkner right now, so go ahead and keep spamming Rage, because even though you don't really need it to kill the Pidgey, the fact that you're going to keep building up your attack stat throughout the course of this battle means that when you go into Pidgeotto, the attack stat of your Pokemon will give you such a huge advantage that it'll only take you like 2 attacks to kill it. So that's definitely what I'd recommend doing. You could make it harder on yourself, but why do that? I mean, Totodile just makes this battle so unrealistically easy that it's not even funny. Not that Falkner was that difficult to begin with, but hopefully you get my drift. So, 2 quick rage attacks on the Pidgeotto who will attempt to gust you, unfortunately. You're too strong, and you win. You win your first badge that took, like, no effort whatsoever. Yeah. Well, 1 down, 15 to go. At least we've made some progress in this game. I mean, Falkner is the easiest gym leader in all of history, but that's kind of obvious. They'll get slightly more difficult as the game progresses, but really not so difficult that they'll be actually like a challenge, so to speak, kind of like Misty was in the first game. But you get a TM called Mud Slap, which is kind of like a hybrid between Dig and Sand Attack, in the sense that it typecasts ground damage, which is excellent because ground is super effective against a lot of things in Silver. And you also get an accuracy decreaser, which is always nice because if you've ever been sand attacked, you know how annoying it is, so you can only imagine how annoyed your AI opponent must be whenever you throw that at them. I'd personally recommend teaching it to Chikorita because she is, statistically speaking, the weakest Pokemon in your party, and she could definitely use the move type right now. You could throw it on Cyndaquil or Totodile, but they don't really need it. They're awesome enough as is. So go into the Pokemon Center and talk to Professor Elm's aide who's standing by the counter. He'll give you that egg that Mr. Pokemon gave you, and if you walk around with it for, I think, 500 steps, I could be wrong. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it will hatch eventually. However, that is to come in a later episode. So stay tuned, you guys. We are going to make some more progress in the next episode. Until then, see you later.